But what I understand is this shift, humanity is going through what we might call a dark night of the soul, where everything that's been hidden, the dark underbelly of humanity is being uncovered and the light is being shown on it. There's so much light being bombarded onto the planet that we can't hide anymore. We can't hide from God's light. We can't hide from who we are from our own light. We remembering who we truly are to love each other. And not just humans, but the whole planet, all the beings on the planet.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. And thank you for joining me today for another near-death experience interview. Today with Sharon Sananda Kumara. Thank you so much for watching. Here's Sharon.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. I'm very, very honored and excited to be here with you.
Thank you. Likewise. Would you like to start by sharing about your two near-death experiences and any information that's relevant to those?
Of course. Again, like you said, I've had two, one at the age of 9 and one in 2001. And I didn't remember the NDE I had at the age of 9 until after my experience in 2001. I didn't remember a lot of my childhood as I became an adult. And so there was a lot there that came rushing through after my near-death experience in 2001. And I think I'll share that first and then go back to what I remembered about my near-death experience in 2001. Okay. It's a little kind of heavy. First of all, I want to say that I was raised Catholic, okay? And I was not a very good Catholic. I went to Catholic school for a little while. My parents weren't real strict Catholic. And nothing against Catholicism or anything like that, or people that are devout Catholics, but I couldn't resonate with the fact that the way I was raised with my grandparents and everything, that God was judging us all the time, following us around saying, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And that children were born in sin and those types of teachings in the Bible study, the Old Testament type of fire and brimstone, it didn't make sense to me, even though I knew in my heart and soul that there was a benevolent, all-loving God. So that's why this doesn't make any sense to me. And I also knew that there was, but I felt that the beings, the saints, Jesus and all that were kind of out of touch for us, that they were put on this pedestal where we couldn't really reach them or couldn't have some kind of our own personal contact with them. So that's how I felt throughout my life. So in 2001, I went inner tubing down the Guadalupe River with 5 girlfriends of mine for a friend's birthday. And we had a really good time. We went through the whole day tubing down the river. It was a hot summer day in San Antonio in Texas. And we had a good time. And we went to get back on the bus, which they call it the shuttle bus, to take us back to our car because we left our car at an outfitter. And those who maybe have done this type of thing with outfitters before, where you go tubing or canoeing or paddling down the river, you can rent whatever you're going to take down the river. So we rented the inner tubes. And they drove us to a place to drop us off and then pick us up to take us back to our car. So it's storming really bad here right now. You can hear that. But so we went back to the bus to get back on the bus after our day. Right? I was the first one in our group to get back on the bus. And I saw that the bus was full of people, and it was just a small, like a little school bus. It was a little school bus that they used as a shuttle bus, an older school bus. But they said, come on, you can stand in the aisleway. It's okay. And so my friends and I piled on, and I went to the back of the bus, and I was up against the back door. And they piled a bunch of people on. We were crowded in the bus. It was probably about a 2-3 mile drive back to the outfitter. And it was a manual bus, an older bus. And we're driving down the road, and as he's shifting through gears, I'm jerked up against the back door, and the door was not latched properly, and it opened, and I fell out of the bus as he's driving down the road. And what happened was, he didn't know I fell out. He kept going for a little while, but I remember very vividly, I hit the trailer hitch because the bus was pulling a trailer with our inner tubes and our ice chests and things like that in it, one of those utility trailers. And so I hit my back on the trailer hitch, bounced off the trailer hitch, bounced onto the pavement, and bounced on my back, bounced off my back onto my side. And at that point, I couldn't believe what was just happening. I was thinking, I can't believe I just fell out in the back of this bus. And I knew that there's something inside me, knew that he was going to run over me with the trailer. And so I yelled in my head. I remember yelling in my head as loud as I could, "Stop, you're killing me." And after I said that, the trailer ran over my head. And that's when I popped out of my body. And what happened was I'm up there looking down, and I don't feel any pain or anything like that. But I'm not really, I'm at this space in my mind where, oh, well, he did kill me. Yeah, I died. That type of thing. And I recognized that we do this all the time. It wasn't something that was new or scary for me. It was kind of natural that we do. We've done this many times. We come here and then we live out our life or we die in some way. And so I had that awareness. Also, I thought to myself, gosh, this is really going to upset my friends. Here are my friends. We had a really good day and we had a good time, celebrated my friend's birthday, and I go and die on them. And that was what I was thinking in my mind. Here I go and die on them. It's really going to ruin the day for them. So I was thinking about that and felt bad about that. And I started thinking about the rest of my family and just, oh gosh, I was my partner at the time. This will upset him, but he'll be fine. He'll get over it, that type of thing. And my sister, she had a family. We're very close. And I thought about her that this will be really hard for her, but she has her family. And then I thought about my mom, who was still on the earth plane. My stepfather had died a few years before that, in 98, 3 years earlier. And when I started thinking about my mom, who I was really close to and took care of, then I felt this presence. And I felt he's my stepfather. And I felt he pretty much raised us, my sister and I, felt him. And that's when I turned around and saw that my stepfather there, who looked great, he was ill when he passed, and he's telling me telepathically that it's not my time, that I need to go back. And I'm thinking, but I don't want to go back. And I felt like, okay, well, I'm done. That I had that awareness, thinking I didn't want to go back because it was so good to see him, and I was really close to my stepfather as well. And so I see this bright light. It's hard to describe space and time, and because we were so used to linear time and space, but it was off to his right. And I saw this. He starts to look over. He turns. Something's happening over to the right, and he turns to observe it. And I turn with him, and I see what looks like a portal, a light portal that I'm sure you've heard about, and your audience has heard about. And it's a portal. It's opening, and I see my ancestors within this portal. Some of them I recognize who were on the earth plane with me, who are in this life with me, and some that weren't, but I still know who they are. I still realize that they are my ancestors. I recognize them that way. And I start to move toward it, and I realize that their faces are not welcoming me. They're not having a celebration, that type of thing. They just kind of look, deadpan is the word that comes to mind. And I got the sense that they just weren't really happy that this was a celebration for me. And so around that time, I see another, I guess it's a portal off in the distance, behind or within, I'm not sure, but back further from that portal. And it's a huge portal, and it's bright like the sun. It looks like the sun, golden white, golden color. It's so bright, and I'm drawn to that. And I realize, okay, that's what I need to be focusing on. And I see a being walking out of the sun-like portal, moving toward me, not really walking, but moving toward me. And I realize that this is a light being. I realize that it is who we understand as Jesus moving toward me. Okay. I recognized who he was, and I call him Yeshua now because I realized that Jesus was not the name he used when he walked the planet, Yeshua ben Yosef. And I flew to him. I flew to him because I realized at that time that I missed him terribly, missed just that longing that I didn't even know I had. I used to be a partier. I would party all the time and, held down a job and things like that. But I realized afterwards that, it's what young people do. I'm sure that's what we do. But I realized afterwards, for me anyway, it was to shove down emotion and pain and trauma that I had as a child, which I remembered afterwards. So as I flew to him, he embraces me. It's very hard to describe. The words don't do it justice. I don't have the words to describe the feeling of being in his arms again and the feeling of being with him. Everything that I may have felt in a negative way in this lifetime, or felt bad about, or felt guilty, or worried about, or anything like that. Anything that we may have felt negatively about ourselves or anyone else just was gone. Any worry, anything was just gone. I felt his complete love and compassion for me, and understanding of where I was and who I was and my journey up to that point. And at some point, and I don't know when, again in linear time, I felt this. It was when I was with him, but I felt this merging with him where I was filled with light, his love, just pure, tangible light and love, which permeated within me. My cells, everything was filled with his love and his light. And I remember thinking, I can't smile any wider because it's going to break my face. Because I was still in the mindset of my body, that type of thing, even though I wasn't in the physical, but I still felt an awareness of who I was. And I just remember thinking, my face will break if I can't smile any wider. And he intuited to me, he did speak telepathically to me, and he said that it wasn't my time, what my stepfather said, it wasn't my time, and that I need to go back. And I said, but I don't want to. And I remember him laughing, not laughing, of course, at me, but just this laughter like, I know, a recognition of, I know, that type of thing. I know. Because he knew me inside and out. He knows everything, my heart, my soul, everything about me. And what he expressed to me was that, and not in words, but I don't even know how to say it. And again, I'm not sure about the linear time. And I'll talk about what he took me on a journey too, that I hadn't finished what I came here to do. And at that time, 2001, I was not aware like I am now, I guess you could say. I had psychic abilities as a kid, that type of thing, but I shut them down because of my traumas. And I wasn't aware of who we truly are, what humanity is all about, and what we're doing here, and the immense love that we have from the higher planes and from him and all that, and from spirit and, of course, God. Yeah. So I just wasn't aware of any of that. I wasn't aware of my role on the planet or anything like that. I was asleep, basically, I guess you could say, right? So he helped me understand that I hadn't fulfilled what I came here to do, my life plan, my mission, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And I didn't have enough time to reincarnate. He let me know that what's going on now is part of humanity's huge evolution where we are now. And all that information came through later. I did not remember everything at the time. It was so much. It came through to me later in increments where I could handle it through meditation, through dreams, through conversations with him, through all of that. I just dump. Sometimes I just dump. I'd be at work or somewhere, and all of a sudden I just start getting all these memories, or at home, or sometimes I would feel it and I'd have to go in my room and say, okay, I got to bring this in because I can't focus on what I'm doing, that type of thing. So how do I put it? He's so compassionate. He understands what we need and where we are in our mind and in our heart. So he says, would you like to go on a journey with me? And I said, of course. And he holds out his hand. I take his hand, and we are instantaneously flying, I guess you could say, through the cosmos. Flying, or the cosmos. I don't know the difference. The cosmos is flying through us, or we're flying through the cosmos, but it feels like we're moving very rapidly. And I just see stars and planets, I'm assuming, lights, and that moving through or by us, that type of thing. It's just so incredible. Again, I can't do it justice. It's really incredible. And he's holding my hand the whole time, and I'm in awe And that part took me a little while to be able to actually bring that in because it was so intense. It was an intense saying, moving through the cosmos that way with him. So we end up floating over a planet. And I realized that this is a water planet. I can see the water planet. I can see the planet. It's a water planet. I recognize the planet. And we're hovering over this planet, and he's helping me to remember that I can connect to the consciousness of the planet. Ooh, I get emotional talking about of the planet and have the awareness of this beautiful water planet. When I did that, as he was showing me, helping me remember, I had so much love, immense love for all the beings that were on the planet that I held within my body. So much unconditional love, and it was immense. And then what we did was we moved down from that awareness of the planet down further, like honing in, right? Moving in further and further and further down onto the planet. And so we're moving down onto the planet and we end up diving into the water. And I realize, and he's telling me it's like a preferred home for me, a preferred home in what I express in physical reality. He's saying, once you finish your job on Earth, you can always come back. He said, you can come back here anytime you want on your Earth life as well, which I did quite a bit afterwards. But it got to where I didn't want to come back. So I had to kind of curb that because I was always going to the water planet. So he takes me down under the water, and I am reacquainted with my family there. And I have a mate and I have children. That's where I was there, and my parents and the beings on the planet. And so I could also have the awareness of myself there as this merbeing. I could bring my awareness to the smallest, tiniest molecule on the planet as well. So moving from the awareness of who I am on that planet, because it feels like it's a parallel life, not a past life or future life or anything like that. It feels like what I know to understand is a parallel existence. Or I mean, we all have them, is what I understand, some kind of parallel existences. So I could move my awareness back and forth from tiniest little molecule on the planet to who I am as that being, as that merbeing, also to the planet itself, the awareness of the body of the planet. So any type of sentient awareness on that planet, I was able to move my awareness back and forth. So he helped me understand that anytime you want, you can come here. And after this journey is over here on this planet, on Mother Earth, I can focus my awareness on that expression as well, if that's what I want to do, which I did. I do. I believe. Yeah. Coming back, I don't recall actually coming back from the planet. I just remember being in my body on the road. Moving back to San Antonio, I was in the middle of the road and I jumped up and the bus had finally stopped. My friends told me they were screaming at him to stop because I had fallen out of the back of the bus. I jump up and my friends are running around. And I also remember seeing, as I'm looking down on my body, seeing a big, one of those commuter buses coming my way. And I'm thinking, gosh, I hope that bus doesn't run over my body down there because that would really make a mess. But the bus stopped and we call an ambulance. And I was obviously protected. There was healing done. I believe going to the water planet actually helped heal my physical body, or not allow it to, because I should have probably been paralyzed or something if I was not going to die. That should have been what happened to my body. So I didn't have any type of major trauma. I did have a head injury, obviously, but I had mostly tissue and ligament damage and that type of thing and lots of road rash. It was a pretty hot day and we were in shorts and stuff. After I remembered, and I remembered so much more, and there's so much there that fits into that near-death experience and how much I learned afterwards. But during my meditations with him and my communications with him, he was with me all the time. Once I remembered him, that he was there, took me on little walks. I didn't feel worthy. I didn't feel worthy of him. I really didn't. I didn't feel worthy of him. Whew. That's the human condition I've found with the work I do as well. It's a lot of times with our staff, we don't feel worthy of God's love. Yeah. So I remembered that as a child, I was being abused by a family member. And in one of the instances, when I was 9, as he was abusing me, I felt this immense pain as he was punching me and hitting me underneath my ribs, and I popped up out of my body. And I remember just going from intense, excruciating pain for half a second, half a second, I don't know how long, but it was excruciating, to complete peace. And nothing there. I was in what I understand now to be the void when I remembered it. But I feel it was what we call the void, because I was just floating there and I felt a connection to everything, but I could still bring my awareness back to me. It was kind of similar to the planet thing, only it was a awareness of universe. I had that awareness of that. And also I could bring my awareness back to me where I felt peace and comfort, feeling held and comforted in that space as a child. And then as I'm floating there, I don't know how long it was. It could have been a minute, it could have been eternity. I noticed a movement off to my right, and I see that it's Yeshua, who I could recognize, approaching me in that lifetime as a little girl. And he comes to me and I'm upright and we're facing each other, and he kneels in front of me and he says, "Come with me, my child." He takes my hand. He says, "You've suffered enough. You don't have to go back." And I say to him, "But I want to, because I haven't finished what I came here to do." So at that time, I had an awareness of my life plan, my mission, my goal, whatever it is in this life. And I told him I didn't want to start over again. I didn't want to have to plan my life and reincarnate again to start over. Because apparently I would have had enough time to do it then. Time in terms of what's going on now with humanity and the planet. So he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes." So he said, "Okay." There was no question of telling me what to do. And the same with the second one. He knew that I would be very upset if I stayed in the afterlife and stayed there when this was in my early 40s. So in my terms, that was pretty young. So I said, that I would not have the opportunity to be here, that I would squander that kind of thing, to not come back and be here during these times. I'm so glad that I did, because I would be very upset with myself and with them for letting me stay, for listening to me when I didn't know better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was basically a choice, but they knew that what my choice would have been when I knew what the circumstances were.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing your 2 near-death experiences, Sharon. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
Oh, no. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Now, I personally love hearing experiences with Jesus, because I was raised as a Christian. I deconstructed several years ago, but Jesus is still a very important part of my faith. And this is not at all a trick question, because I know there's a lot of debate, but I would just like to hear who Jesus is to you.
Sure. Jesus is everything to me. Yeshua is everything to me. I started having memories of walking with him during my meditation. And he is everything to me. He is what I would consider, he's pure love. He came here to teach us that and teach us how to love one another. And also, I believe that is that he was not Christian himself. Right. The Christian religion was basically formed after he was crucified. He had all kinds of healing modalities. He studied all types of faiths, all types of modalities and things like that. He is everything to me. He is from anything that's that would be the masculine type of epitome of the masculine, whether it be father, brother, partner, all of it. He is all that to me. Anything that I would have a question about, he's right there for me. Always. I have his portraits in my room, and first thing I see when I wake up, first thing I see his face when I go to sleep. So he is my guiding light. He saved me many times, saved my life many times. Adoration isn't even strong enough for what I feel about him. He's everything to me. He's part of me. We're part of each other. And I believe that he lives within all of us. We just have to remember how to embrace that and bring that out.
That's beautiful. I find it so interesting that in your second near-death experience, you were told that you wouldn't have time to reincarnate and be back here in time to fulfill your purpose. And it just goes along with what so many other near-death experiencers are saying about the shift that we're going through now. Mm-hmm. Were you given any information about what that shift is?
Yes, I've had lots of information over the years. When you're in the higher planes, I guess you could say, when your mind is in the higher planes, we understand so much more. And then we come down here, and I say up and down because of frequency. We're down here and we're like, what was that? I understood it there, but how come I don't understand?
Yeah,
right? I don't quite get it. So, but meditation helps with that, definitely. But what I understand is this shift, what I understand to be true now, is that humanity is going through what we might call a dark night of the soul, where everything that's been hidden, we're going through the time of revelations, right? That the dark underbelly of humanity is being uncovered and the light is being shown on it. There's so much light being bombarded onto the planet that we can't hide anymore from the light. We can't hide from God's light. We can't hide from who we are, from our own light. We are shifting into that space of remembering who we truly are and how to love each other, how to be these immense beings that we are, and helping us remember that we are immense, powerful, loving beings, and that we're here really to connect and help each other and love each other. And not just humans, but the whole planet, all the beings on the planet, the animals that we've mistreated so much, and all part of the planet, everything on the planet herself. So where I feel the shift is that awareness, is that we're waking up to who we really are. And when we do wake up to who we really are, we realize that we have a lot of healing to go through. And that's what I went through. Is I had tons and tons of healing of past lives way, way back. And it's interesting that Yeshua is the one who taught me about past life healing.
Wow.
Yeah. And because he was my teacher, and I made a commitment to him that I would be in my room every night at 9 p.m. and for our teachings in meditation. And he helped me with remembering tons and tons of past lives that needed healing. I guess I'm one of these people who needs, what do you call it, a slow learner?
Me too.
You have to experience things quite a few times in order to learn something. So I had lots and lots of lifetimes. And I realized I probably was also transmuting from my ancestry too, because a lot of us do that. You probably know that too. There was a lot of work that I needed to do on the way back to, in my memory, to Atlantis. And I know the Bible does, I believe the Bible does talk about Atlantis, but not the way we understand it. All of that, and we're coming back to right a bunch of wrongs. I believe that a lot of us are coming back from those times to right the wrongs from the fall of Atlantis, or whatever we would like to call it, the fall, so that we can move out of this 3D, third dimensional, limited existence into the fourth density of the heart.
Yes.
Yeah. Moving from the solar plexus of empowerment, that type of the third density, which is the yellow ray, into the heart.
Are you familiar with Law of One? Because I noticed you're using those terms.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, goosebumps.
Oh, I love Law of One.
Yay. I know, right? It's amazing. It's amazing stuff. Yeah. And it makes so much sense.
It's also interesting to me that you mentioned revelation, because as I'm sure you know, being raised Catholic, we were taught a very different understanding of that book.
Yes, definitely.
But you feel that it's speaking about the evolution that we're going through right now.
I do. And when I believe that the books of the Bible and lots of sacred teachings were written in the language of the people in those times. And a lot of it is metaphoric in how we would understand it during those times. And our language has changed, right, over the centuries.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've learned that it's difficult. And as a teacher, and Yeshua was that way, that I'm sure you know this working with him and any types of teachers that are in the spirit. And they aren't allowed to do this anyway. What I understand, they can't just tell us something right out, right? It has to be, like we would do too. It has to be like a metaphoric type of thing or give us hints and guide. That's what I guess it's called guidance. And then right out telling us, because then we're not really learning and we're not growing like we're supposed to be on why we came here.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I sometimes get frustrated by that, but I do the same thing with my children. So
there you go.
Trying to teach them math and I can't just give them the answer.
Right? Yeah. I know a lot of times we want the answer. I want the answer right now. I want you to tell me, should I do this or should I do that? But I've learned that it doesn't work that way. We're here to make up our own mind. We have love, free will. We have free will so we can make a decision. And I also learned there is no wrong decision. That's what he taught me. It's how we handle each decision afterwards that might keep us heavy, in negative emotions like guilt or whatever, or regret looking back.
Wow, that's really good distinction. So Sharon, I've heard in another interview that you did, that you've had thousands of, or over 1,000 out-of-body experiences. And I've had one out-of-body experience. And like you said, I can't remember most of what I was shown in that experience because it all fell out of my consciousness and I came back in. But I'd like to ask you a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Oh, no, not at all. Yes.
Is this something that you've always done since you were young, or did something trigger that in your life at some point?
Well, I believe we've all done it as children. We're closer to the spirit world as children, and so it's pretty natural for us. And lucid dreaming and things like that, where we're aware in our dreams because we're traveling in our dream time because our consciousness doesn't sleep. It's our body that needs rest normally. So I believe that we do. And I don't have the only thing I remember as a child because of my childhood was flying, and an eagle would come pick me up and take me flying. That's basically what I remember the most. Those are pretty vivid. So I would say if you're dreaming of flying or anything like that, you're having an out-of-body experience.
Wow.
Yeah. So after my stepfather died as an adult, when I started getting back into the practice of it, which I didn't have any idea that I was going to, after he died in 98, I started having what we call sleep paralysis. And you may know what that is, where you wake up, your body is paralyzed, and it's scary if you don't know what's going on. And I didn't know what was going on. I was trying to scream out, but I can't. I feel like there's a presence in the room, and you're just paralyzed. It's pretty scary. And so I didn't understand what was going on, and it started happening pretty frequently. So I started searching online to see what I could find out about it. And I found a correlation between what was termed sleep paralysis, which I didn't understand. By the way, our body has that, where I learned, our body has a mechanism within it. When we go to sleep, it's paralyzed, so we don't act out our dreams. It's a natural state. But if we wake up when we're in that state, we don't understand it. Our conscious mind automatically goes to the scariest thing it can go to. That's what the ego does. Yeah. So I found online a correlation between sleep paralysis and out-of-body experiences or astral travel. And then I said, oh, that's interesting. That's going on with me. And then I looked down the list of things that you can do in astral travel. And one of them was to connect with crossed over loved ones. And I just lost my dad. So I thought, oh gosh, I need to find a way. I need to find a way to connect with him, because when he did pass, I needed to know that he was still alive. He still existed, because I couldn't accept that you either go to heaven or hell, and that's it. And purgatory, if you're lucky, I guess. I've learned what they're talking about. Purgatory is actually spirits stuck on the earth plane. So I do spirit rescue as well. And so what I realized, and I started reading in every book I could get my hands on at the time on mediumship. so I could have some kind of a connection to realize that he is still alive. John Edward, back in the day, John Edward and George Anderson and people like that who were connecting to loved ones. There was so much proof about that he was actually connecting to people's loved ones. And this made the most sense to me than anything I could think of in my religious upbringing. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to find Dad on my own this way. And I started reading, I'm an avid reader. I started reading every book I could find on astral travel and out-of-body experiences. And within about a month, I think it was like 6 weeks or 8 weeks, something like that, I was able to have my first out-of-body experience where I lifted up from my body consciously and was able to move freely around my house. So I started out doing that. And then I got obsessed and I found my dad. He's met me a handful of times. And I found my mom after she passed. And I also found my biological dad after he passed. And I used to connect with people, loved ones on the other side, because I belonged to an online group where we would travel together and meet in certain places in the out-of-body state. And I just started doing it where I was able to, I offered for people if they had lost a loved one, I checked on them in the out-of-body state to see if I could find them and bring back information. So I was doing that at the time. And ever since then, I do it on a regular basis and I teach classes on it.
Wow, that's amazing. Sharon, there's so much more we could talk about, but I would like to give you an opportunity to share about what you do.
Oh, of course. Well, yeah, after working with Yeshua, I realized that I have some abilities and gifts that I would like to offer to the world, which is psychic mediumship. And so I do that. And I also work with people on past life therapy with clearing past life traumas that we've brought forward, programming, karmic programs that we brought forward. They helped me with that. So I do that as a practice full time. That's what I do. And I also have an academy where I teach courses, metaphysical courses, things like that, where I help people with remembering their true selves, bringing forward our abilities and gifts on this plane, on the earth plane, and trying to understand the universe, the nature of the universe, and helping each other out, because that's what we're here for. www.SharonSananda, SharonSananda.com.
Perfect. So I will have your website and your YouTube channel, Facebook group, The Orb Sisters, KumaraAcademy.com. So I'll have all of that linked in the description. So if anyone would like to check that out, feel free to do so. Sharon, thank you so much for being willing to have this conversation. This hour has gone by so fast, and it has so many more questions I have, but this has been wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. It's been an honor. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for watching the Love Covered Life podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and comment with your thoughts and opinions, and check the description box for the links to my free community where I share lots of resources, my Pay What You Can community where we do classes and challenges together, my TikTok, Instagram, my Clips channel, and lovecoveredlife.com where I share my paintings. Thank you so much for your support.